Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy Zola, and today we are going to start hopefully looking at some of the fun stuff in After Effects. Obviously we've spent a bit of time going over the composition, project and timeline panel, which are the three main panels. So today we can start looking at animation, and that's the first protocol. As you can see, I've resized my window to fit into the 1080 frame. I'm not sure whether this is going to improve my quality on YouTube or not, but I'm thinking it should. What it means for me is I've just shrunk down my whole workspace into a 1920 by 1080 frame, which is actually quite a small window on my monitor, but if it helps you guys on YouTube, then I'm more than happy to do it. So thanks to whoever put that in the comments, and we'll see how this goes. Let me know. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a new composition. File, new composition here. Doesn't really matter how long it is. Let's make this 10 seconds. The frame rate doesn't matter again, but I am going to make this 25 frames just because I'm in Europe and I like to represent. Okay, so we have, I'm going to make this fit up to 100 so we can always see what's going on no matter how much timeline space I use. And what I'm going to do is show you that I've shown you how to import footage, and be that, you know, photos, videos or whatever. As we can see here, just 3 random pieces of footage. You should know all this by now. I try and cover all this stuff. This is what happens when you bring in a raw picture. Don't worry about that. Okay, so I have 2 videos here and a photo. But there are other things we can do in After Effects. We can generate things. Now, if I come up to here, this is a problem now because my menus are going to go slightly off screen. But you know, you asked for it. If I go to Layer and New. You see I can make all of these objects. So on top of the footage I can bring in, i.e. pictures and videos, I can make text, I can make a solid, a light, a camera, a null, a shape, an adjustment layer, an Adobe Photoshop file, although I'm pretty sure I've never done that in my life, and Maxon Cinema 4D file, which again I would usually work in Cinema 4D and then import it, but you can start in After Effects now and make a Cinema 4D file, which is kind of cool. So for today I'm just going to make a solid, and we're going to get this little menu which basically asks me what size I want my solid. Now this kind of resembles the make new composition, but not really. What I'm going to do is I want to make a square, so I'm going to make this 1000 by 1000, so that, you know, it's a square. I'm going to make the color my favorite color, which is like slightly minty green. Okay, so here we go, we got our square. Now this is a bit big for me, so I'm going to come down here, transform, and scale this down by dragging this here. And I'm going to show you how to animate. Now you might see down here in the transform menu we have these little stopwatches next to our parameters, and you'll notice things are blue. Now if I hover over one of these stopwatches, it says stopwatch vary toggle ability of property to change over time. Alt click add or remove expression, and you're going to get this dialog if you hover over any stopwatch. And in plain English what this means is if you want to animate something, we have to add a keyframe. And if you don't know what keyframe is, don't be scared. We're going to get into this nice and slowly. If you do know what keyframe is, you probably know where I'm going with this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to keyframe the scale of this. So we're going to make this. So as you can see, I've clicked the stopwatch. Suddenly we have a diamond appear here. This has gone blue. There's a little diamond here. All kind of stuff's going on. What I'm then going to do is drag along time. So as I'm pretty sure I've explained, the further you go from left to right here, the further in time you're going to go. So at the moment here I'm on 0 seconds. I'm going to go to 1 second, which is here. And I'm just going to change the size of the scale. So I'm going to move it up. Now I have 2 keyframes, which means I have animation. If I drag the timeline between, we can see what After Effects is doing is going from one state, so whatever I have when I'm over this keyframe here, which is 34% scale, to 83% scale, and it's happening over a second. If I come to 2 seconds, I can then make this smaller again, maybe even smaller than before, like 14 seconds. And so on and so forth. This should be kind of simple. You can keyframe multiple things. You can move keyframes after the fact. So let's say this is too slow. I can move this keyframe here, move this keyframe here to a second, and now if I press spacebar, you're going to see that happens over the course of a second, whereas before it was 2 seconds. And a useful trick is if you select all your keyframes, hold down the Alt key on your keyboard and drag the first or last one, you can scale your animation in or out, which is kind of useful. Let me do that here. So if you have loads of keyframes, it will get all the ones be in between and kind of bunch them in or out, which is kind of super neat. So let's bring this down to a second. So now we have some scaling going on over a second, and let's make this spin as well. So I'm going to keyframe rotation, come to here, and let's say it spins 90 degrees, and then come to the end, and it's going to spin like loads, I don't know. So here we have 90 degrees and then lots of spinning. Cool thing is, if you add animation in After Effects, you can add motion blur as well. So if I toggle switches, so I get this little dialogue here. I kind of explained this briefly, but kind of ignored it as well. So I've turned motion blur on. If I press spacebar, nothing happens because I need to turn it on for the composition. And now it's kind of hard to see because we're not really moving that fast. So I'm going to make this happen really quick. And if I loop this section, it's kind of, again, it's happening, but like not particularly quick. But if I turn it on and off, you'll see we go from having a clean square to, if we turn it on, we'll get this kind of blurring behind. And I guess the best way to do this is to delete these animations. So what I'm going to do is hit the stopwatch again, and suddenly we have no keyframes, hence no animation. I'm going to go to position here, move it across. I'm going to come to 1 second, move it all the way across here. We can see now we have a path. And then I'm going to come to 2 seconds and move it back. So now, as we can see, the thing is moving between the 2 points. Now if I scale this down to like a second, so hold them both, hold Alt. Now we have the square going up quite, and I'm going to select this. This is the area you can preview. If you have it selected to the whole timeline, it will play the whole timeline, but I can just play within this area because if I open my little preview menu here, and if you don't have it, go to Window and Preview. If I open this little menu, you'll see there's lots of shortcuts you can set up to do previews, but I use Shift and Numpad, which plays the range of my work area, which is this area, and from the start of the range. So if I hit Shift and 0 on my number pad, it will do that. And we're not really seeing that much motion blur. It's because I have my, so I need to explain this. I believe in 90 and 180. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now we have a bit of motion blur, and what I did there is you can ignore that. By default in your composition, the motion blur will be fine. So I'll explain that another day. But so there we go. We've got streaking, and if I do Control K and go to Advanced, and make this, kind of more pronounced or less pronounced, it will happen more or less. So there we're having it not happen at all because I moved it down to 0. If I turn it to 90, then we're going to get more streaking there. And if I make this faster, we're going to see the motion blur happen even quicker. So that's a really quick introduction to animation. You can keyframe anything with a stopwatch next to it. So as a quick exercise, I suggest you make a little square, place it at the bottom of your composition. So I'm going to make the rotation for this 0. I'm going to place it down here so it lines up with the bottom, and see on a very basic level if you can make this cube kind of do a fun animation jumping up and down. So I'm going to make it jump up, and then you can also do this if you select a keyframe, Control C or Command C on a Mac, Control V, you can paste it, so it's doing this now. And there's different types of animation. At the moment this is doing what's called linear animation, so it's going literally in a straight line at the same speed. If you right click on the keyframes, go to keyframe resistant and change these to easy ease, and now play it, it's less pronounced, but you'll see it's kind of slowing down a bit at the top of the jump. Now this is kind of moving on to what I was going to do tomorrow, but I'll show you a quick look. If you go into the graph editor, you can actually edit the speed at which this is working. So this is what our square is doing right now. So if we watch it there, it's going up. Now watch what happens if I so I'm going to leave this playing, and here in the middle I'm going to stretch out the kind of the ease in and the ease out. Can you see now that the square is actually slowing down at the peak of the jump? And maybe I want it to kind of just slightly, maybe not ease out, but ease in as it kind of lands. Maybe not that much. And you can see how we've changed the feeling of this animation by just changing these. So if I hit Control now, I can change these to linear, and that's what we had before, which looks kind of boring. And then this is what we have now. So you right click on them, go to Easy Ease, change them to Easy Ease keyframes, and then that will allow you to go into the graph editor and start pulling the points around. Make sure you have auto select graph type selected, and it will show you the graph that you need to be able to manipulate these. So then yeah, I suggest you try and just animate your little square jumping up and down. Maybe if you want to get fancy, add some like rotation to it. So maybe over the scale of, you know, like this 1 second, it spins a whole rotation. So, and again, I can select these, make them easy ease. Go to my graph here, pull the in point out, and maybe this point in. And you see how fun that is. And this is really good practice for just getting your head around what a keyframe does. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one as we will go deeper into animation.